Okay, we're recording now.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. So everyone, welcome to the Internet Society's 158th meeting, Board of Trustees meeting. And, this is actually the last meeting I will be chairing, the last official board meeting. So in the AGM, we will be electing a new chair. My term expires. So I'm actually, I'm quite excited to see that and to pass the torch to the next board. So that's going to be interesting. But before we get to that, we have a few reports to accept and a few things to approve. So without further ado, let's welcome everyone, and apologies. We received regrets from Mike. If he can join, he will. If he cannot, he will not. So, but anyway, we have quorum. All other trustees are here, and also the new trustees who will be basically officially seated at the AGM in 3 weeks. They are here also as observers. So just to be clear, when we vote, it will be the current board voting as usual, of course. So given the agenda that we have, any declaration of conflict? Okay, seeing none, I will start the agenda. So the first action item is traditionally the current board always basically sends a few action points to the new board coming at the AGM so that they basically, they pick them up and there's no basically action points falling through the cracks, so to speak. This year, we have chosen to basically ask the new board to support the projects that they were approved as part of the action plan. That's basically something that we always do because one important part of the society is obviously to execute on the action plan. And then we also thought that revenue diversification is still a focus area for the board and for the organization. So we are basically urging the future board as well to continue working on that together with the ISOC Foundation, because given the constraints that we have, like the public support test, is extremely important to get a diverse set of revenue sources. And also, from a risk perspective, that would be also welcome. So those are the two issues that we decided to basically have on the proposed resolution. Any other comments before we pass the resolution? Okay, so I will need someone to move. Richard moves, Heather seconds. Okay, and we're gonna pass these resolutions by show of hands. So I will be always asking for 3 options. You have 3 options. As usual, yes, abstain, and no. And I will be randomly changing the order, so you have to pay attention. So just kidding. I will say always yes, no, and abstain. So yes, votes, please raise your hand. Abstain. No votes. So the resolution passes unanimously, just remembering that Mike is not attending. So all the trustees voted yes. Moving on to point number 3 on the agenda, which is the independent auditor's report. Heather, you want to give a brief introduction to the report?
Sure. The takeaway is that we were very pleased with the auditor's report, as well as the kind of collaboration between the ISOC staff and the auditor, and the audit committee was pleased to say this all looks good, essentially. Maimuna, if you have any other comments.
Maimuna, any other comments? Okay, I take that as a no. So excellent. Any discussion? Good. So, okay, Maimuna says no on the chat. Excellent. So again, I need someone to move. Okay, Robert and Pepper moves, sorry. And George seconds. Okay, and again, show of hands. Yes votes. No votes. Abstentions. Okay, and I didn't get Walid's and Maimuna's votes. So what do you guys voted?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Walid voted yes, and Maimuna?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so excellent. The resolution passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving to point number 4. on the agenda, which is also to be presented or introduced by Heather, which is the Audit Committee report. So Heather, please.
Given that the auditor's report was in fact the bulk of the audit committee's work this year, I will point back to that, but also the report talks about essentially looking at the audit report as well as looking at some of the conflict of interest and declarations, and it all went smoothly.
Excellent. Thank you, Heather. Any questions or discussion on that?
Acelera.
Luis, I think you are not muted, so you may want to mute yourself. Okay.
Very sorry.
No problem, Luis. Okay, so no discussions. I need someone to move. Ted moves. Someone seconds. Pepper seconds. Okay, so yes votes, please raise your hands. No votes. Abstentions. Okay, the resolution passes unanimously as well. Thank you, Heather. Okay, moving on to the CEO succession plan and committee report. So Mike couldn't be here, so I basically put together the report, and I was also a member of the committee. So summarizing, this was a committee that we put together for the first time. It was about basically having a CEO succession plan, as not surprisingly, as the name of the committee indicates. But just as I always talk about this committee, to stress that it wasn't because we were unhappy with Andrew or we were looking for an actual CEO. This is just to be ready because we thought it's good governance to be ready at all points. So we identified talent within the organization at least 3 levels, people that they can jump into the CEO position if needed, because Andrew wins the lottery and disappears in no time. Then people that they need basically some type of tutoring or work experience to get ready for such a step. And then we basically delegated into Andrew to make sure that development plan happens for those people with potential. And then the 3rd level was people, they are basically 2 work experiences from being ready to take a CEO position, but still, they are high potentials, and we want to basically nurture them and have also a development plan for them. And also we delegated into Andrew as well to basically make sure that those people, they basically get a proper development plan. So that was basically the conclusion, and this committee will run every year just to make sure that we have an updated set of candidates, because these things change. So the intention is to run the committee again after the AGM. Any discussion? Okay, and by the way, I forgot to mention that we also got the support from an external consultant to make sure that we were basically looking at all aspects of the succession plan. Okay, so then I need someone to move. George moves, Laura seconds. Okay, and yes votes, please raise your hand. No votes and abstentions. Okay, so the resolution passes unanimously. Excellent. So moving on, also me, the compensation committee report. So the compensation committee report is worth mentioning that we changed a bit the tasks basically that it has performed. So we used to focus a lot on basically coming up and assessing the results of the CEO's goals. So this is something that we did all the time, but basically the review and the revision of the salary. But then this year, basically, we expanded a bit to basically take care also of the disqualified persons. So we did basically a thorough review of their compensation, their performance, and all that. This is something that we are planning basically to do also down the road, because we think that the compensation committee is the right place to do that, as opposed to delegating it to the CEO as we did in the past. So that was kind of a big change in the scope of the committee. And this year, basically, we were learning how to put together the processes and how to do this in the most effective way. And I think we have a good work plan for next year, which we also put together, and we will be basically handing that over to the new chair of the compensation committee, which will be the new chair of the board. That's an ex officio position. Any discussions on that? Okay, then I need someone to move. Richard moves. Someone seconds. George seconds. Thank you. Okay, yes votes, please raise your hands. No votes. Abstentions. Okay, so the resolution passes unanimously. Some of you are slow kind of movers, so if I misrepresent your vote, just let me know, and I will be happy to stand corrected. Otherwise, I would assume that was a delayed yes by some of you. Okay, moving on to point number 7 on the agenda. This is the Elections Committee report, and the chair of the Elections Committee this time around was Maimuna. So Maimuna, please introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to introduce the report. We had to elect 2 members organization, 1 chapter members, and the ITF has to nominate two representatives on the board. And we set up a process with several steps like nomination, petition, the final candidate's announcement, the forum of the candidate, the vote himself, and the results announced, and a challenge period before the final result. And at the end of the process, in the chapter election, there were 6 candidates for 1 elective board, and Luis Martinez received the most votes and have been elected for 2 years term as a trustee. Mohamed Chabil received the 2nd highest number and has been offered 1 term year by board appointment to complete the number of board members from chapters. From organization members election, we received 4 candidates, and it was for 2 trustee seats. And at the end of the vote, we had Robert Pepper, who received the high weight vote, and he is elected as for the 2nd 2-year term, and also Paul received the 2nd highest vote and is elected as the trustee for 1-year term. What we can say, the level of participation in both elections was significantly higher than last year. And we really had a good experience on this vote. There is no big challenge on it. And I would like also to thank all the committee and also the staff for the support and the result we get. I think we will have another committee for the next election, and I look forward to work with them for the next election. Thank you.
Thank you, Maimuna. Indeed, it was great, the high participation. Yeah, we noticed the high level this year. That was indeed something we were very happy about. Any questions for Maimuna or discussions on the report? Okay, then I need someone to move. Pepper moves, Walid seconds. So yes votes, please raise your hands. No votes. Abstentions. Okay, so the resolution passes unanimously. Thank you, Maimuna. Moving on to point number 9 on the agenda, which is the Finance Committee report. Richard, please.
Thanks, Gonzalo.
Skipped executive committee, Gonzalo.
You are right. Yeah. So sorry, Richard. Point number 8 on the agenda. Yeah, I was skipping it. Sorry. The executive committee, basically, as you know, it's been inactive for the last 5 years. We chose to basically deal with many of the things that the executive committee used to do at the board level nowadays for transparency's sake. So basically, the committee is there in case we need to act very quickly. The executive committee is one of those committees that has the powers of the board, but we didn't need to even meet this year. So, you know, the quick report is that we didn't do anything. We didn't even meet. Any discussion or questions? Okay, so I need someone to move. Richard moves, Laura seconds. Yes votes, please raise your hand. No votes, abstentions. Okay, the resolution passes unanimously. Thank you. And now, Richard, Finance Committee. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Gonzalo. So overall, this is a pretty quiet year for the Finance Committee. In the last couple of years, we've done a bunch of work revising investment policies and things like that. But this year was mainly kind of about monitoring. All of the excitement was around COVID, like many other things. So COVID did have some impact on the budget, for obviously. We weren't able to spend travel funds and things like that. And so we did a big mid-year rebalancing. The staff did really to kind of keep accurate track of where we're expected to be at the end of the year. And that ended up being like pretty accurate. We ended up underspent relative to where we thought we were initially, but pretty close relative to the reforecast. So I think that kind of gives good confidence that we were able to adjust and able to accurately predict how that we'd be able to execute that adjustment. The picture with non-PIR revenue, obviously, that was one of the action items to consider in the next board. Then that's an important finance item to keep an eye on. The way I'll summarize it, that we're still kind of in the red zone, but the first derivative is starting to look a little better. So we were still behind in 2020. We were behind where we thought we would be, but where we thought we would be at the beginning of the year. But then when we reforecast, we actually ended up doing better than the reforecasted end of year. So it seems like we're starting to get better at predicting what we can execute, and we're starting to bend the curve in the right direction. I'll note that the 2020 non-PIR revenue was 17% up from 2019. So that's the right direction to be moving. So it's still something that needs attention, but the first derivative at least has the right sign. So we're starting to move in generally the right direction. So I think the thing to look forward to as we look forward to the rest of this calendar year is with the budgeting process, we're obviously continuing to adjust to this. I have post question mark COVID, uncertain whether we're actually post COVID, but as the realities continue to shift, we need to keep an eye on that and our ability to execute the budgets we set out. And I'll just close by thanking the committee for their diligence and the staff for all the good work they put in.
Thank you, Richard. Before the meeting, we discussed a couple of typos that they will be fixed in the report. So modulo those, any discussions? Questions for Richard? Okay, thank you, Richard. I need someone to move. Ted moves, Heather seconds. Yes votes, please raise your hands. No votes, abstentions. Okay, so the resolution passes unanimously. Thank you. Good. So moving on to point number 10 on the agenda. I don't think I skipped any committee this time, which is the governance committee, and that's John. John.
Yeah, thank you. It was a fairly busy year for the governance committee, and we did two major things. One was to clarify the conflict of interest policy, which turned out to be important since Olga found that she had a fatal conflict. And I hope that now that it's clarified, it will be easier for future boards to keep it in mind and to avoid having problems like this. The other thing we did was actually Alona did was to go through the bylaws and make them actually agree with the relevant law and clarify the distinction between corporate officers and board officers. That's done. And looking forward to next year, I think that the bylaws are in good shape. If the Governance Reform Committee actually produces anything, it will be the Governance Committee's job to consider what to do about it and whether it's consistent with both, ISOC's goals and good governance. But that won't be my problem, and I look forward to having someone else worry about it, if at all. So with that, I move that we accept this report.
Okay, so John moves. Anyone seconds? Walid seconds. So yes votes. No votes. Abstentions. Okay, the resolution passes unanimously. Excellent. Maybe just one clarification on the governance committee, because some of the new trustees asked about that, and just for the record, that the governance committee usually prepares assessments and material and everything for the whole board to consider.
Oh, yeah, so I forgot. We did the biennial board review, which was also has some interesting results and says that we need to figure out how to keep ourselves more engaged.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
for reminding me of that.
Yeah, the self-evaluation, exactly. That was something else that the committee did. Excellent, perfect, thank you. Good, so that was point number 10. Point number 11 is the PIR nomination committee, and that committee was chaired by Ted. Ted, please.
First, let me thank the rest of the members of the committee for the excellent work they put in. It was a fairly busy year for this committee because we were seating 4 new members of the PIR board, which is an unusually large number due to the circumstances of last year and a particular resignation that occurred. We had quite a large number to fill. We got a gratifyingly large number of candidates to work with, went through a number of rounds of interviews and discussions, and we have seated all 4 at this point. We have done this with a staggered term so that the next PR non-com will not have as large a set to have to select, and hopefully that will be something that we can maintain. That's the bulk of the report. Thanks.
Thank you, Ted. Any discussions? Okay, I need someone to move. So Pepper moves, Laura seconds. Yes votes, please raise your hand. No votes, abstentions. Okay, so the resolution passes unanimously. Thank you, Ted. And that basically takes us to the end of the official agenda, which was to accept all the reports of the different committees we have, and then just to note that we will basically have a foundation board meeting right after this, where we will be accepting the reports of their committees. And this year, since it was before we basically restructure the governance of the foundation, there's several committees like executive, audit, finance, etc., that they were basically serving as committees of both. So we will be basically accepting those committees at the foundation board as well. Having said that, we move to any other business. Any other business from anyone? Okay, if there's only any other business, I move to adjourn. Anyone seconds?
Seconded.
Okay, the meeting is closed.
You don't need to second the motion to adjourn.
This is the last
The
time
last
I have
time.
my last chance to do this. I couldn't pass on it.
Where is your gavel?
I know. I actually forgot it in Helsinki. I'm in somewhere else now. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. So, so Kevin,